Welcome to Frickety Frack. We do talk back. Thank you for joining me in this episode. My name's Patrick, and I'm Frack. In Frickety Frack, we do talk back. We take different aspects of fandom and connect them to the lessons of the Gospels. So currently what we're doing is we're working through Bleach, Thousand Year Blood War, and taking each episode and connecting it to a lesson from the Bible. And so we will be doing each episode of Thousand Year Blood War, and if it goes on a season hiatus or season end or the series ends, I don't actually know what their plans are and how they're going to release the episodes. When that goes on pause, I'll go in a different direction during that pause, and it could be anything from a different anime, comic books, movies, Star Wars, anything. Different directions. And so the name of the show is named after my brother and me, who were dubbed Frickin' Frack since we were kids by my dad. And so this episode is called the Born in the Dark. And so in this episode, there's lots of interesting that happens. And so before I get into the interesting that happens, just as a reminder, I will be doing some spoilers. And so if you have not seen the episode yet, then pause now and watch the episode or find out what happens, so I'm not the one spoiling it for you. All right. So in this episode, we do see Yamamoto's death and how everyone responds to that. He's pretty stubborn about dying. Like, even, he's sliced in half and he still tries to fight Yawaba. Either way. Very stubborn, won't die. But one of the cool things is that as Yawaba is, deals with Yamamoto's death, we get this kind of hint of the original 13 squad captains, 13, and they were ruthless fighters and did everything they could to win. It's very different than the way they are now. So we get kind of a glimpse into that. A really cool, style photo of the 13 captains, or 13 court guard squads, all being led by Yamamoto. And so we get that kind of interesting thing, and then we also understand that there's two reveals. That there are, in fact, 5 special war powers that Yawaba has decreed. And so we know of 3, Ichigo, Kenpachi, and then also Aizen. But he says that Yamamoto wasn't considered a special war power. And so that's kind of interesting because Yamamoto is, he's the commander, he's, the head captain, whatever, depending on the translation, if you're watching the dub or how it's translated, he's sometimes the captain general, general captain, commander captain, those kind of different titles. I like head captain. It makes the most sense. That he is the most powerful soul reaper, and he is not considered a special war power. And so that's kind of fascinating. And I'll get a little bit more into why he's not considered a special war power when we get into the biblical theme. So I won't get into it just yet. But so he's not considered one. So we don't, as of yet, know who the other 2 are. And so we'll get into those as the episode reveals them. And when Yawaba says, you're a special war power, or one of the other Vandenreich say, that person is a special war power. Then the other thing one of the other interesting things that happens is that I love is that, not love per se, but like Ichigo, when he comes in to the scene, he is incredibly upset because where Ichigo is for this episode, when he begins, he's still trapped in Kirigi's cage. And so in this, he is, he's sensing the spiritual pressure of Soul Reaper after Soul Reaper being killed and slaughtered either by Stern Ritter members, or now we get their foot soldiers, and people who don't really have any names. Basically, they're just like the other nameless Soul Reapers. They're like, oh yeah, we can take them, and then they get slaughtered by them too. And so all Ichigo can do is sense these people dying, and he gets angrier and angrier. And so he finally breaks through the cage, and Akon is there waiting for him, and he's got 4 Quincy arrows in his back. And the Stern Ritter who shot him was like, oh, well, nice to meet you. I'm blah, blah, blah. And I don't remember his name because Ichigo Getsuga Tenchu's him. And I don't really remember. All I remember is that I loved it because, a lot of times people get kind of chatty, but Ichigo's like, boom, goes straight through him. He's like, I'm tired of this nonsense. Great. And then another great thing that happens is we do find out that Renji and Rukia are still alive. Byakuya is happy about that. And he's like, I don't have much time left. And I'll get kind of more into Byakuya's conversation with Ichigo, because that too also will tie into the biblical theme. But he has a really great conversation with Ichigo. And so that goes, and that'll tie into that. So that leads to him fighting Yawaba, and it is amazing. It's a really great fight. You see the speed, and one of the things that I always love that they do in these animes is that you'll see each character will have a different color representation. And so I know it might feel kind of cheap, but I actually really do enjoy it because it shows just how intense the battle is going. That they're represented by different colors, and so they're spinning and then clashing in different directions, going ching ching, and so there's colors represent them and their energy, and Ichigo using his Getsuga Tensho and another thing, and then Yawaba using his sword, and it's just great fight. And with this fight now, it's not as amazing as Yamamoto's fight with Royd Lloyd in the previous episode, but the music's better. And that's one of the things I always love about Bleach, is that they always kind of, it has this great rock, pop rock, punk rock feel to it. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not a music aficionado by any stretch of the imagination, but when Bleach picks its music, it does a really great job of making sure that it's just top notch. Let's see, and then the other thing that I love in this episode is that there's more of a mystery revealed, that during the fight with Yawaba and Ichigo, it's clear that Ichigo is powerful, but he is not strong enough to beat Yawaba. And Yawaba is having the hardest time trying to figure out, why haven't I killed you yet or made you submit yet? And you see that Ichigo has Blutvein. And he says something about his spiritual pressure memory has been awakened. And Ichigo's like, what does that mean? What does that mean? He's like, oh, do you not know about your mother? And he's kind of like, what? And so there's a mystery involving that, why Ichigo has Blutvein, and something involving his mother. We'll find out later, but it's one of those things that I'm not going to spoil for you right now. So there's a new mystery. So that's really great. So there's great action. The story moves forward, and a new mystery is now being teased for further development. So now that we've talked about the things that I found really fascinating with this episode. Let's talk about the biblical theme. The biblical theme is Leviticus 19:33 through 34. When a stranger sojourns with you in your land, you shall not do him wrong. You shall treat the stranger who sojourns with you as the native among you, and you shall love him as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. So, as a reminder for longtime Bleach fans, or if you haven't watched the original series of Bleach, Ichigo was not treated very well, especially in the beginning, and Byakuya was one of them. And so one of the reasons why Yamamoto wasn't considered a special war power is that he used to be more ruthless and using anything or anyone to win the day. He had no problems sacrificing Soul Reapers to get the mission done. He, after apparently, this is according to the Yawaba, after the first extermination of the Quincy's, Yamamoto got soft. I think that slaughter probably kind of changed him a little bit. But anyways, that's the reason why he was considered a special war power, is that he wasn't willing to get humans involved. And so, for example, Orihime could have healed Yamamoto's arm that he lost in his fight against Aizen. Or he was also very reluctant to have Ichigo join the fight in the first place. So one of those things that, we always kind of talk about. And so in this time when Ichigo goes to Byakuya, they have this beautiful conversation that he's like, you know what, you're a human. I'm a captain. I've led my men to their deaths. Their families don't even know what's happened to them. These Soul Reapers trusted me and I failed them. And I don't have much time left. And there's and this is what I love. Byakuya, in his own way, is being very emotional about this. And he's like, I shouldn't even be asking this of you because you're a human and not a member of the Soul Society. But he asked him, will you please protect the Soul Society? And Ichigo doesn't respond, and Byakuya knows, I don't even know what he didn't even give a response, but I already know what his answer is. And so that's when he goes and approaches Yawaba to fight him. And so then that leads to like I said, the epic fight between Yawaba and Ichigo. And so one of the things the reason why I chose this is because, as Byakuya said, that you shouldn't even be asking this of him because he's not a person. Ichigo is not a member of the Soul Society. He's a substitute Soul Reaper, and he's extremely powerful, but he's technically not of the Soul Society. And especially early on in the Bleach series, him wearing his Soul Reaper robes and everything, he's like, I'm not really a Soul Reaper. I'm just filling in for Rukia. And so until they could figure everything out. But anyways, that's, like I said, that's the beginning of Bleach. And so, but because he's human, he's treated differently. He's looked down upon, and, Byakuya, as I said, is especially one who really looks down on him. Renji looks down on him because Byakuya looks down on him. Renji kind of comes around on him a little bit quicker than Byakuya does. Either way, it's, he's not treated very well. But then, as it's announced that Ichigo is on his way and his Bankai cannot be stolen by the Stern Ritter, that gives everyone hope. And even before they announced that Ichigo, they knew Ichigo needed to come, even before they knew that his Bankai couldn't be sealed / stolen at that point, because they hadn't realized the difference yet. They're like, okay, well, if Ichigo's coming, everything will be fine. So his time and his presence among the Soul Reapers and the Soul Society, they recognize that, he actually is good. I mean, he's powerful. He's a good fighter, and so it's one of those things where he encourages everyone. He empowers everyone with his courage and his will to fight and those characteristics that a lot of shonen protagonists have. And so with this episode, this makes me think about, and I think, and one of the things I love the most about Old Testament is that God is constantly reminding the people of Israel that, you were once foreigners in the lands of Egypt, and I heard you. And so when foreigners are among you who are sojourning or anything like that, we should treat them as our neighbor, and we should love them as you love yourself. And so as a kid who's loved anime since middle school, comic books and Star Wars and all those things, I had trouble, fitting in. Middle school's tough for everyone, but it's a little bit tougher for nerds, per se. And now is probably a little bit better, maybe, I don't know. But anyways, I'm doing a podcast and YouTube video series about anime and connecting it to lessons from the Bible. I mean, nerd. And I'm okay with that. I'm very proud of it. But once I finally found a group of people that, we had similar likes and dislikes and brought me in, middle school became a lot more enjoyable for me when I got those friends. And high school is even better because our mentalities kind of mellowed out a little bit. So we're like, oh yeah, you're a nerd, you love geeky things, sure, okay, you're still geeky and nerdy, but whatever. But I've never been ashamed of liking Star Wars and comic books and things like that. But anyways, but it was just hard to not get picked on it for a long time, and that was tough. And so anyway, so what I'm wanting to encourage you in this time is that, even if, and not even necessarily just foreigners or immigrants or anything like that you come across, but people who are different, remember that God has called us to love them as we love ourselves and to treat them as our neighbor, and look to the parable of the Good Samaritan for more information about what it means to be a good neighbor. And who is your neighbor. But anyway, so when we think about how we treat others, are we treating them with love and respect as we want to be treated with? Or are we just brushing them off because they're different? They're an other, per se. And so I want to really encourage you in that this time, this week, where is somewhere that you can go and be a part and show love to someone who is different than you, and show them the love that God has shown us, because that's one of our most important responsibilities as followers of Christ. So I want to encourage you that in this time. And so let's, as we wrap up this time, let me rate this episode. With this episode, it is a perfect 5 again. And so, you might be thinking it's 2 5s in a row. Can't really beat it. Great. There's great action with Ichigo versus Yawaba. Great character moments with Byakuya and Ichigo. More of the stories revealed, some teasing of the original Gotai 13, and then the mystery behind Ichigo and his blood vein, why he has it, is just fascinating, and it keeps me hooked in for another episode. I can't wait for the next episode to come out. And so for me, this is another perfect episode. So the music, everything, it's just top notch. So it's got to be another perfect 5. for this episode. So if you have any questions about the biblical lesson that I talked about in this episode, or any biblical lesson that I've talked about, or if you have any questions about the Bible, feel free to shoot me an email at fricketyfracktalkback@gmail.com, or reach out to us on Twitter at fricketyf, or at fricketyfrack on Instagram and Facebook. Be sure to like, subscribe to the video, to our YouTube page, or subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast. Also, leave a comment below, and if you do, I'll try to do my best to respond back. And if you can also leave a question that way if you want to leave a question. And then if you're on the podcast, you can send me a voicemail, and if you've got questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them on the show. I'd love to get some listener mail or viewer mail to put in the show. So feel free to shoot me a question, and I'll answer it to the best of my ability. But so know this, that I love you, most importantly, that God loves you, and so go release your Bankai.